Welcome back to my channel. This is Nikki of Nikki's Homemade Crafts. Welcome to part one of the Filet Crochet Mystery Crochet Along. We're going to use Mary Maxim's Sunrise yarn, and which is a number 3 or light yarn. I'm using also a 3.5 millimeter hook. I'm not sure if you can see. It's totally fine to use a 4, maybe even a 4.5 depending on your tension. That's totally fine as well. Go by the actual project. So for Filet Crochet, you can do by measurements if you like, but just go with what the graph pretty much tells you. There's a lot of wiggle room in this project, so don't worry too much if yours is a little bigger, a little smaller. It's totally fine. Okay, so we're just using one skein. That's all we're using. You also have a graph. Okay, so let's get right into it. If you've never done filet crochet before, then this is for you, because I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this. So I have here part 1 printed out for you, and I have a lot of extra notes that I'm going to go through so I can explain to you how this is actually working and how you understand it, because I feel like it is so much better just to work with a pixel graph for filet crochet. Actually, anything where there's graphs, just use the pixel graphs. It's so much better. You can visualize it and count very easily. So in corner to corner, you know it's going from corner to corner, but for filet crochet, we're actually going to go by just rows, but each pixel has a different meaning. Okay, so there is the open mesh and then there's the closed mesh. So the closed mesh is typically done in an X or in a black pixel, and the open mesh is done in a O or a, white pixel. So let me explain a little bit more what this even means. We're going to use something called 3DC or 3 double crochet filet crochet. There's also something called 4 double crochet filet crochet, but we're not going to focus on that. Okay, we're just going to focus on the 3 double crochet filet crochet. Okay, so knowing that is a 3 double crochet filet crochet, you have, as I said, open and closed mesh. They're either black or white. So let's explain how you even get to the 3 double crochets. So 1 pixel is equivalent to 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3. So that's a black pixel. 1 open mesh pixel, a white pixel, is equivalent to 1 double crochet, 1 chain, skip 1, 1 double crochet. So it is still 3 stitches per pixel, but it is much easier to think of 1 pixel as 2 stitches and then plus an edge stitch, so to get to 3, right? Let me explain why that is much easier to think about, because otherwise most people get confused when we say 3 double crochet, because the third of the 3 is always shared. So look at this little tiny pixel graph right here that I drew out. So I gave you the pixel graph right here, but I also drew it out in symbols. So if I go here and explain each one, so the white one is 1 double crochet, chain of 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet. But the black one is 1 double crochet. This one is a shared stitch between the two. So 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, another double crochet, and again this double crochet is shared between the black one and the next white one. So the white one is 1 double crochet, chain of 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet. So because they are shared, it is much easier to think about it as 2 stitches. So either 1 double crochet, chain of 1, skip 1, or for the black one it would be 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, aka 2 double crochets plus an edge stitch, because the edge stitch is either here or here, whichever one you want to consider as an edge stitch. Doesn't matter to me. Okay, now how do you go from that information to how many stitches do I need, aka how many chains do I make to start out with when you have your pixel graph? So this is your pixel graph. This is what you're working on, right? So you have here the number, so it goes on to 40. Okay, so knowing that each pixel is 2 stitches, you're going to take the 40 and you multiply it times 2, which gets to 80, plus the edge stitch, which is 81. And now you need to decide, are you going to do the alternative turning chain or going to do a chain 2 and slash a chain of 3? Okay, so if you're doing the ATC, the alternative turning chain like I do, you're going to do 82 chains. For this, you would need 83 because you're either going to use chain of 2 and ignore it. I prefer not using chain of 2 or 3. Just that you know that. That's why I'm using ATC, because it makes clean edges. But in case you are going to use it, chain of 2 would not be counted, and then chain of 3 would be counted and would be the very first double crochet. So keep that in mind. In my opinion, it's much easier to think of all of these stitches as ATC if they are on the edges, because you can clearly see which stitch is which. Okay, so again, I wrote it out here. So for 3 double crochet filet crochet, it is double the amount of pixels, so 40 times 2 plus the edge stitch plus the turning chain, whichever one you want to use. Okay, so if you're using ATC, you add 1. If you use chain of 2 or 3, you add 2. Okay, so for me, I'm going to show you this little tiny area right here to explain to you how this actually works in reality, and you are going to make this giant one. I'll show you at the very end how that actually turns out to look like in the end. Now, you don't know yet what you're making, but trust me, it's going to be so much fun and you're going to be very happy. So I'm going to show you on this little tiny version right here how this works and how you're going to crochet filet crochet. So let's get started. All right. I made a chain of 8 over here so that we can go through this teeny tiny swatch right here. Okay, so let's get started. I wrote it down, so 2 stitches per pixel, right? So 2, 2, 2 plus 1 or 2, right? And then you have that edge stitch with another one, which makes it 8. So 8 chains. So again, this is the turning chain. We're not counting it. So let's start with the alternative turning chain, okay, which is right here. So you go to the second chain from the hook. I'm going to place a single crochet. So my alternative turning chain is a stacked single crochet. And so once I have my single crochet, I insert it into the loop that's closest to my yarn finger and then pull up a loop. So you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through. And that is your alternative turning chain. It's equivalent to a double crochet, and you can see, I'm going to pull this out here so you can see there is a stitch here on the top, and that's what we're going to use when we go back. Okay, so it's very easy to see where you need to insert your hook into. So that is now 1 double crochet. Okay, 1 of these double crochets. So now I'm going to yarn over. So I'm going to look here. This is a black one. I have 2 black ones. Okay, so I'm going to make another double crochet right here. So however you want to think of the edge stitch is up to you. You're either going to have the edge stitch first or you're going to have the edge stitch last. So typically I count it as the last one, but it's totally up to you. So here I do 2 double crochets for the first black pixel. Now I'm going to do for the next black pixel again 2 double crochets, so 1 in each chain. Now we're going to do the last one, which is a white one. So we're going to do the white one, and the white one is 1 double crochet, a chain of 1, you skip 1, so this is 1 skipped chain down here, and then 1 double crochet at the very end. Again, that is my edge stitch. So you're going to count it first or you count it last. It is totally up to you. Okay, so let's break this down here. Once you see this, I'm going to move here my loop to the side a little bit so you can see it. So I'm going to put my edge stitch here on the other side so it's a little bit more clear. Okay, so let me point to it. So we have here 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and this is a white pixel, therefore it is a double crochet, chain of 1, skip 1, and then we have 1 edge stitch, which is again a double crochet. So that is row 1 done. So now let's focus on row 2. So we're going to turn. So obviously you need to remember which direction you're going. Okay, so I'm a righty. I like to go from right to left. Okay, and then once I turn, I go from left to right. Whether you're a lefty or righty does not matter in filet crochet. Just keep up your directions. So just keep going in the same loop-de-loop, okay? It is totally up to you whether you start on left or right. So now that I have finished row 1, I'm going to work on row 2. We're going to start with an alternative turning chain. Remember, this is 1 pixel is mirrored, so it really doesn't matter where you consider your edge stitch. I have the first one is the alternative turning chain, aka it's a double crochet. So I have 2 stitches right here. So it's an alternative turning chain or double crochet, chain of 1 and skip 1. So let's do that. So I made 1 stitch, chain 1, skip 1, which is right above this one. And then the next one again, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1. And the last one is a black pixel, which means I'm going to have 2 double crochets. So again, 1 in each, right? And then I finish it up with my edge stitch. Because the pixels are mirrored, if you look at 1 pixel at a time, you can mirror it. It really doesn't matter which one is your edge stitch. Whether you call the first one the edge stitch or the last one the edge stitch. I call always the last one because it's easier to think about it. But let me now put it down according to my little pixel graph so you see exactly what I did. So I did here 1 alternative turning chain, so that's the double crochet right here. Then it has here a chain of 1 and a skip 1. So double crochet, chain of 1, skip 1. Then here's the next one, also white one. So double crochet, chain 1, skip 1. And then this one is a black one, which means it's 2 double crochets. Okay, 1, 2, and then the edge stitch right here. So it really doesn't matter if you consider it first or last. So in this one, I always do it last. That is how I think of my edge stitch. So that is my little tiny swatch that I just made for this. But you are going to do the entire thing. So not just that little tiny swatch that I made, but you're going to do the entire thing. Trust me, it goes really, really quickly. And in the beginning, you actually only have black ones. So all of this is just double crochets, right? And then just starting in row 8 is when you're actually going to start some of the open mesh. Then you have a little bit more over here. Again, you're going row by row and going all the way through. Once you're at the end right here, you are not going to cut your yarn. You're just going to simply stop, right? I don't know where you're going to stop, either here or here, but you're going to simply stop. And then you're going to wait for part 2. Once you're done, you make sure you take a picture and post it into my group called Crocheting with Nikki, and use the corresponding hashtag so I can see you and celebrate you. And then you're going to get ready for part 2. So here is part 1. You can see how the pixels are nicely aligned, whether it's the open mesh or the closed mesh. Now, looking at this, can you tell already what we're making? I would love to know if you have any guesses of what we're making. You might be able to tell a little bit more in part 2, but for now, let's keep the mystery alive. I'm really excited for the next part when you can see a little bit more of what we're actually working on. But I don't think even in part 2 you can guess what we're doing. So get ready and let's post your pictures once you've finished your project. I'll see you in part 2. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the bell to get a notification next time I publish a video or go live. Now go ahead and watch the next video. You're gonna want to, I promise you do.